It says we're live. We're doing this.
Yay.
So, Amelia, thank you very much for joining me today. For those of you that are not at all aware, this is Amelia. Is your last name Paro or Paro?
Paro.
Paro. Okay.
Yeah.
So Amelia Paro. She's with ID Agent, and I'm excited to have her on. She's going to tell us about ID Agent, I'm sure, because I'm going to ask her a lot of questions because I know they've got some updates that they've recently launched. And honestly, I've never used ID Agent, so I'm excited to learn a little about that. But we're also going to talk about the cybersecurity landscape a little bit. And, maybe we'll just get to know Amelia a little bit too, since this is our first time chatting. So, hi.
Hi. Hi, Steve. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm actually really thrilled to be here. I love this kind of thing, right? When I saw on Facebook, I think it was, that you were looking for people that wanted to come and talk on your podcast, I was like, me, right?
Yeah.
What a great opportunity. So I love. And while it's a little bit more difficult now that we're all in lockdown still, a lot of us, I'm used to being on the road and I'm used to being out and being able to talk with MSPs. And so I miss that a lot. So this is the next best thing, doing these type of virtual face-to-face events. So thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I want to start by saying, are you a technical person?
I am not. Try not to hold that against me.
Okay.
My background, I have been in the tech industry for over 10 years, for a long time. I've always been in sales roles. So I started out like Wolf of Wall Street, boiler room, call center. This is way back pre-2009 bubble burst. I was doing Microsoft road shows when they were in the Surface bus, and Surface was just getting ready to come out, and it was like a big thing, right? So I was promoting those, working with Microsoft, working with Lenovo, graduated to doing like this 9 to 12 month sales cycle for Oracle ERPs. So I did that for a long time, and then landed a job with a good friend of mine who was starting his own MSP. And so there was 3 of us, right? So it was me and the CEO and another friend of his that he had pulled in to help him with the technical stuff. And this was early 2015, maybe late 2014. So, at first we were working out of his house, but we grew it. And it was, while I wasn't the business owner, I very much felt like it was my baby too, because literally helped the CEO grow it from the ground up. My story is very much about sweat and tears, the trials, the relationship, not just owning and running an MSP, but any business. I'm very fortunate that, I got to work in the channel. I continue to work in the channel. There's nothing more, MSPs are such and special group of people. Like it's every day it amazes me at the resiliency and the ability for MSPs to pivot. And really I know that we've all been struggling and things have been going on, and the COVID and the pandemic. And I hope everyone in the audience and out there that, your families are safe and healthy. But on the flip side, it's like, who was it? Somebody said this, and I love it. And it's absolutely true. This is really going to be and is the golden age of MSP, because MSPs have literally kept business alive in this country. So, you know, I'm just so honored and thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you're looking at the chat. I'm going to call it a running joke. So I'm going to ask you some questions. She has no idea what I'm about to ask her. I promise you guys I didn't coach her. You're familiar with HIPAA, right? HIPAA compliance?
Just a little.
Okay.
No, yeah, I am. Absolutely.
Okay. Do you know what a BAA is?
Yes, and we do have them.
Okay.
So we have them.
So you will.
If we have them for our partners, if they need to make sure that they have those with their vendor, and then we also have them for MSPs to use with their customers if need be, depending on their business model.
Oh, that's really good. And just to clarify, the BAA that we can use with our clients, that covers us across all of the services we provide, not just the ID agent portion, right?
Actually, it would be everything that ID agent, the service, the tools that we have. It gets a little complicated, right? So this is where yes, but no, no, but yes.
So basically, have a HIPAA. I'm going to say qualified because I can't think of the right word. Have someone that knows what they're talking about with HIPAA, who's also a lawyer, look at the BAA and make sure it's going to CYA for you guys. But at least, Stephen, the answer is yes to can they provide us a BAA for us to use? It's not an NDA, it's a BAA. Yesterday, I feel so bad. Yesterday, I had a guest who had never heard of a BAA, and I'd really just like to leave it there. So moving on. So we know that she knows what a BAA is. They offer them at ID Agent, not just between ID Agent and the MSP, but they've also got a template that you can at least start from for the MSP and the client to utilize. But as always, it's a legal document. Have your attorney review it, and maybe an attorney that specializes in compliance.
Yes. And another bit of advice is you're going to want to get it from all your vendors to cover all of your bases. And let's say, you know, just for argument's sake, you know, the BAA that we had covered all of your services. You're still going to want to get it from all of your other vendors. So.
Excellent. All right. So ID Agent, from what I've gathered, you guys are the mysterious dark web, letting us know who's been hacked, who hasn't, who's been breached, who you know, basically everyone's been breached and hacked by now at least twice, right?
Yeah, well, that's the mentality that as MSPs we have to adopt and make it our mantra moving forward, right? So what we do at ID Agent, and just taking a step back just for a moment, ID Agent was born in the government space. So the tool that we give to our MSP partners to use to help better protect their customers is the same tool that still supports the Office of Personnel Management, an entire branch of the U.S. government. Now, we are channel now. So while the OPM is a legacy customer, we only sell through the channel to our MSP partners. So what our tool does is it gives you visibility into compromised credentials, which, if you think about it, is an early breach indicator system, right? So it's like 80%, 75 of 80% of all compromises, that result in a data breach, it stemmed from a compromised credential. So knowing when an employee, an ex-employee, yourself, anybody associated with your MSP business and your customers' businesses, when their compromises, their emails, their personally identifiable information, PII, is out on the dark web, currently in the hands of cyber criminals, that is a huge step forward towards preventing a breach, right? Like, nobody anywhere can say that they can 100% protect anybody, but having that visibility into the dark web is huge. And as a added bonus, which when we developed this tool was totally not what we had planned it for, but it worked out really well for us and for our MSP partners, is that it's a amazing get your foot in the door sales tool, right? So we give our partners the ability to run an on-the-spot dark web scan that they can show, well, pre-COVID, of course, show up at a prospect meeting, but now it would be virtually, and run a compromise report that will show a prospect all of their emails, all of their passwords, all of their PII that is compromised, and the source, for the most part, we can pull about, I'd say 80 to 90% of the sources for these compromises, for these breaches in this report. So going into a prospect meeting, being able to show that, it's a pretty powerful, pretty eye-opening tool. And, I was on a call earlier on a Facebook group with, another bunch of group of MSPs. And one person was saying, well, everybody's heard of the dark web now. Everybody knows about it. And yes, that may be true. But there are a lot of people that still businesses that still don't. And even if they do, it's the day-to-day things that we deal with, that you deal with all the time, that puts them at vulnerabilities, right? Makes them vulnerable because they're using the same password or a similar variation of across the board on everything. And it's even worse now that we're all remote. So we give visibility into compromises, and then we also provide a tool that give the MSP partner the ability to offer kind of the what's next step, right? So with simulated phishing, so you can provide phishing simulations. So as part of the that zero trust framework, you got to make sure that you have the right people, have access to the right machines with the right credentials, and constantly monitoring for that compromise, and also including testing and training, right? So with phishing simulation, you can test and then also provide security awareness training services through one platform.
Like it. So have I been pwned? You've heard of that one, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yes.
So talk to me about like what they're doing versus what you're doing in the whole breach detection piece.
So have I been pwned? And forgive me, I forget the guy's name who started that. So what he does is it's a free open source, and that data is you're gonna get a lot of duplicates. You're not gonna get a lot of sources. You definitely won't get passwords. It's just gonna let you know, right? So an email, if it's been compromised, is part of a breach. So the amount of depth data that we provide, that threat intelligence is really what sets us apart. But honestly, when you look at something that's free, right, you pay for it. Yes, MSP partners that use us, they also like to use but some guys really like get out there together. But it's not going to be and duped like ours is. We have a team analyst came with us when we moved of the government space that still work with us, and these guys are literally their entire years have been lurping out on the dark web. They've got avatars. They are watching the chat rooms. They are watching the botnet sites. They are watching, all of these different parts of the dark web. And so when it's not just our tools web scraping, it's also that layer of, human intelligence analyzing, providing insights and deduplication and verification of that data.
So I'll be honest, like, I installed Tor and a while back, and I opened it up and I was like, well, now what? So I did what anyone would do. I used Tor and I went to Google and I didn't get very far. So so how on earth do your people know like where to go? Are you hiring bad people?
No. And that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So and I want to make sure that everyone is very clear on this. We do not support, we do not fund, we do not, facilitate criminal activity in any way, shape, or form. We just report on what's already out there.
So how does that work? Because some of the last people I had on here that were talking about the dark web, they said, just going to one of these websites is a crime. So does that mean you guys are technically committing a crime just by going to the website? Do you have like a special letter from the president? Like how on earth are you allowed to just go to these websites and have avatars and do all this stuff when I'm being told just simply going to the website is a crime?
So, what website would be my first question. Is this a website out on the dark web?
I assume yes.
Okay.
With the forums where you can buy the things and the stuff and the.
So, and this gets into, so anybody who knows how to get out on the dark web can get out on the dark web. So the dark web also includes the deep web, and and that's everything that's not cookied by Google and AOL and all of that, right? So you have to know the IP addresses. So just getting out onto the dark web, deep web, whatever you want to call it, is not illegal. Getting in, this is very much gray area, right? So like going to these sites is not illegal.
We're talking conceptually right now, so I'm not holding you to anything.
Yeah, but so it's what you do, right? It's what you do there. You go on these websites and you engage in criminal activity, of course, right? You take steps, you take actions to further criminal enterprise, of course, because that's criminal, right? We just provide visibility, right? So, what we are doing is we're monitoring, the chat rooms and the unindexed sites and private websites, social media platforms that are on the dark web. We are just monitoring. We take no action other than to monitor and gather, right? It's the actions that are, where it gets into, what is the motive? What are you doing? So anyone who gets out on the dark web, what is the motivation for that? Curiosity? Okay, right? I'm sure there's all kinds of things that once you open that Pandora's box, but again, what are you doing out there, right? So my question would be, to the individual that says just going on the website is illegal. I don't know about that, right? I'm not a lawyer, so.
Do you think that guy maybe didn't know what he was talking about?
I don't know the person, so I'm not going to speculate. I'm just going to say, that there's a lot of misinformation about the dark web, right? On either side, right? Whether it exists or not, and then, to the other extreme, right? Like just having a Tor browser is illegal, which it's not. So, I mean, not that I'm aware. But
no, I don't think it is.
Be in trouble.
Yeah, I don't think it. I think we're okay. So, all right. So I'm seeing a bunch of obviously trolling comments, but as I sift through this, I'm trying to make sense of if some of these are real questions or not. Somebody asked, "Are you FIPS certified and or FedRAMP?"
So I know that we are GA, and I don't.
GSA?
Yeah, GSA. Thank you. So because we're channel, we don't deal directly with government anymore. But since we came from yes, GSA. So the other ones, I don't know, honestly.
Okay. Somebody technical would probably be able to answer that, but you are, what is your title at ID Agent? So that way.
I am channel development manager. I am business development. So my job is to just bring awareness of what ID Agent does. So I spend a lot of time talking to other MSPs in situations.
So like sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Got it. I
mean, dirty words within the MSP space. I know.
Right. But I just want to make sure that they understand, like, you may not be able to answer some of these questions because I know that they're looking for, sometimes very technical things. Like now they're asking who your intelligence partners are.
Ooh,
I didn't know
that is
you had
above
intelligence
my
partners.
pay grade.
Okay. Zero knowledge infrastructure.
Zero knowledge infrastructure. Is that similar to zero trust?
Zero trust. I mean, that's more like, my software is just not going to let anything happen on the computer.
So yeah, trust but verify. You know what? I don't know what zero knowledge infrastructure is. This is the first time I've heard of that.
It's the first time I've heard of that.
Okay, good.
That doesn't.
I didn't know there was going to be a quiz. I didn't prep.
I'll be honest. I don't think that really means much to them if I haven't heard of things. Okay, so, okay. Can you see into our tenants like IT Glue can see into theirs? So basically, like an MSP, we've got access to our client's server and all the files and folders and on that server, right? IT Glue can technically get into our tenant and they can see all of our clients. They can see all the passwords, all the documentation. They can see it all. So how does that work with ID Agent? What can you see? What can't you see? I mean, they're hackers, guys. They can see anything they want. Okay. That's the honest answer, probably.
Well, so we report on compromises and security vulnerabilities off network. So we are not, so for example, on any on-network vulnerabilities, that's where you would want to run like a network detective scan, because that is going to check for all those security gaps on network. We report on the security gaps off network. So compromised credentials, emails, PII, that is in the hands of criminals on the dark web.
Right. So,
however, we do with Passly, and now I don't know if you're familiar with Passly, which is our 3-in-1 secure identity and access management. We have an integration that integrates ID Agent with IT Glue. So the Passly, it's a password vault, and it will let you know if any of your passwords that are saved in IT Glue are out on the dark web, because we are all owned by Kaseya now. IT Glue, ID Agent, Rapid Fire Tools, we are all Kaseya.
How does that make you feel?
Well, so, I was with ID Agent pre-Kaseya, and going from an MSP, which was small and growing, and then going to a strappy startup, security firm like ID Agent, there was, as there always is with growing pains, there's growing pains with growth. So I will say that I have seen, so Kaseya has what's called IT Complete, which literally is an amazing it really exemplifies the one throat to choke, and it gives an entire simplified dashboard for MSPs to be able to pull in all of the Kaseya products. So we're talking like the VSA, right. So the RMM, ID agent, so dark web monitoring, network detective scans, all of that, IT glue, Unitrends backup, be able to pull it into one dashboard and not have to, where it opens up additional windows. It literally will pull in information into that single dashboard. So what Kaseya is doing as far as the technology for the MSP space is pretty thrilling. And I'm not an IT nerd, right? So I'm a sales and marketing girl. And what I can see, it's pretty amazing stuff. So, good and bad, I guess.
Sure. All right. So looking at Passly, you mentioned it's a place that you just put all your passwords and see if they've been like breached, right?
Passly is our, that is one of the many functionalities. It's a 3-in-1 password manager, single sign-on, and 2FA MFA tool. So
okay, so you basically it's like LastPass, but from ID agent.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know LastPass, looks at the dark web. I think Dashlane does. I know that. Who did I just have with me? Password Boss. They also have dark web stuff. I feel like that's one of those gimmicky features anymore. Like just because they all do it, so I don't feel like you're providing anything that somebody couldn't go out and get with that. Does that make sense?
It does. It's more about reducing vendor redundancies and having one vendor providing multiple tools.
Which is great for Kaseya partners, but then when there's the people that are using Datto, RMM, Autotask, I think that's where things probably get a little confusing or frustrating for MSPs because as once the private equity money gets involved, first of all, the people on Kaseya, once private equity got involved, I suspect, without any actual proof, so I'm not saying this is what's happening, I suspect that they stopped putting as much time into developing Kaseya as they did with acquiring other businesses because, as Dave Sobel once said to me, once they get to a certain size, the only way to continue having 30% growth in revenue is now they have to do mergers and acquisitions. Right. They can't really acquire new customers at a rapid pace to be able to do that anymore. So then when you start having, right now we've got 3 major companies. We got ConnectWise, Datto, and Kaseya, and whoever owns the 3 of them, right? And are they still playing nicely together? Like, is IT Glue being developed as well for ConnectWise and Autotask as it is for Kaseya BMS? I don't know. And that's the kind of thing that I think might frustrate MSPs, especially when they're not in the Kaseya umbrella. They might think, well, why would I go with ID Agent? They're a Kaseya company now, and I don't use Kaseya, so it probably doesn't integrate as well.
Well, and I cannot speak for, IT Glue. What I can speak to is the fact that ID Agent, prior to being a Kaseya company, we were vendor agnostic, right? Like the big vendor agnostic. So we've got native integrations with Autotask. We have native integrations that still to this day that we continue to update and maintain and improve upon with ConnectWise. We've got integrations with Infusionsoft, right? So we wanted to make sure that we still, because look, I was an MSP and I used Autotask, right? I mean, Autotask used to be pretty much all there was, right? And granted, it wasn't the greatest for CRM stuff, but it was almost like it was all there was, right? So we wanted to make sure that Will kept those integrations so that it wasn't just an option of, Kaseya, or if you want us, you have to adopt Kaseya, right?
Gotcha. And I think James has a really good point in the chat. You say you're vendor agnostic. I mean, you were vendor agnostic, but now that you
Right.
are owned by Kaseya, I think while you may still partner with the other vendors, it's hard to be agnostic when you're owned by one of them now.
True. That is very true. Yep. The struggle is real.
Let's go back a couple of questions. So when they were talking about the zero knowledge infrastructure, so you said that you can't see like our client networks. So with ID Agent, I suspect we are creating like tenants or customers, clients, something. We're putting information about our clients into your system.
Not
because
other than
it's got to search. It's got to know who to search for somehow.
It's based on the domain, like the email, right? So you would enter your customer's domain name, www.abccompany.com. And then the tool, because it's a SaaS platform, right? You get access. The only thing you load is your customer's domain. Then the tool is going to go out and look for any and all compromises associated with that domain name, which is also why it pulls in, ex-employee compromises, as well as what is commonly referred to as a false positive. And I use air quotes here because as it pertains to compromised credentials, false positives usually mean that what criminals are doing is that they are creating fake profiles on other sites to use it to try and phish your organization, your customer's organization. So those false, the false positives in compromised credentials is something that needs to get paid attention to as well. So we pull all of that in. So it's looking for complicated with the domain name.
So then there's Passly, where we're using as a password manager. Where's that information stored? Is it only local to the client, or is it synchronized to the cloud and then able to synchronize to the other devices owned by the end user?
And you know what? That's a great question, and I don't know.
Okay.
So
and the reason I ask is simply because I think what the people that are here watching are trying to get at is, with zero knowledge infrastructure, even if we're punching in usernames and passwords and it's stored in a database somewhere on ID Agent servers, it's going to be encrypted and bundled in a way to where you guys simply cannot access it. You don't have the decryption key, which is typically our username and password or whatever. You just don't have the ability to access it. Now, again, you guys being hackers, I'm sure you can figure out how to either hack into your own system or hack the people and convince the people to give them passwords, because you probably do some manipulation on that part as well to get some of the information that you guys are getting, I suspect.
Well, I mean, we are not hackers.
You're hackers. You're white hat hackers. I'm sure you're like white hat hackers.
But the nature of white hat is that, we're not doing it for malicious intent nor financial gain as part of a, fraudulent scheme or artifice.
Right. And to clarify, I'm not saying the term hacker is not always bad. Like, when you're like the I'll call it one of our end users, they just assume all hackers are bad. I think we as IT professionals are smart enough. Enigma put here in the chat, security professionals. So
ethical
white hat,
right?
Yes, ethical, white hat. I mean, they are all hackers, right? Just because you're not using your knowledge for evil doesn't mean you're not necessarily a hacker.
Yeah.
So all I was saying is, you know, it's just because a system is zero knowledge doesn't mean nobody can ever access your stuff.
Well,
That's all I'm saying.
that can be said of pretty much any vendor in the IT space.
Yeah, I mean, look at that one outer space sounding vendor in December and January.
Outer space sounding vendor.
He wears a belt.
I'm
Anyway,
going to plead the fifth on that one.
yeah, it's okay. He wears a belt. It's nice. Three buckles. So anyway, I guess my point is it doesn't matter if, I mean, it does if it's zero knowledge or not, but it really doesn't matter if somebody wants to get your information. A bad person, they will get it.
And honestly, more often than not, they don't have to go to all that hard work, because the human element is the easiest avenue to leverage and is a vulnerability, right? So what we're seeing is that the surge in phishing attacks that happened after COVID, right? It's because we're all so distracted. We're all expected to use so many different applications and tools and technology. And we've got end users now in a remote working environment, some of them hastily set up just to keep the business process moving forward. But at the end of the day, pre-COVID, post-COVID, right? You've got employees looking at stuff on their mobile devices in the middle of the night, maybe after having several cocktails, right? And it's just the distractions and
My favorite time to work on computers, by the way.
Well, yeah, absolutely, right? Who doesn't agree with that? But it speaks to the point that there's just humans really are the distraction, the pressures of having to, get things done like this, right? It just leads to, a bigger and easier attack vector for, people with malicious intent to leverage. It's just, why would they go, the hard route when they can take the path of least resistance and the low hanging fruit, which is, humans, us. Not us IT people, but your standard end user that is using I love my dog 4, I love my dog 5, and I love my dog 6 in a rotation for everything.
Well, I think for a while my mom was doing something like summer 2020 exclamation point, and then like my date of birth or something, because and then they would make her change the password in 90 days, and well, now it's autumn 2020 exclamation point, my date of birth. So I mean, I got her thankfully
than most. You got to give her credit for that.
Yeah, she is smart, but sometimes she's so dumb. No, kidding. I love my mother. She's a wonderful person. All right, so IT rock stars. I see. What's to stop someone calling into a help desk proclaiming to be the CEO and asking for a password reset? What are MSPs doing about that offline social type of attack? What is the solution?
So a couple of things come to mind. End user training, right? Education and constantly communicating to end users, right? That what attacks, what to look for, what they should be paying attention to, what they shouldn't be doing, things that is more risky behavior. Because at the end of the day, just like any criminal organization, enterprise, those of us that are the good guys and trying to prevent it, we are still operating on, a step behind. So, there's going to be things that ultimately get through, but the more layers of protection that you have, the less likely that it's going to get all the way through and impact the business in a negative way. I wish I could say that we had an answer that would 100% secure everybody's environment. That would be awesome. I would not have to work anymore.
So I wish I could tell you guys like here's exactly how they did it. But I was talking with an MSP the other day, and they basically have like every end user's cell phone on file somewhere, and then they're using some type of random six-digit generator and Twilio, and they will send an SMS to the end user, and the end user has to be able to give them that information. And they also need to be able to call and have the end user answer that phone, or something along those lines. I mean, so basically, they're trying to do multi-factor authentication with humans, and Enigma said Duo will do that. So I would say that I don't know how to implement that. I'll be completely honest. Not that I couldn't. I never really put that kind of thought into it. But it sounds like you guys might want to look into something like Duo or something along those lines if you really do want to make sure that we are not getting socially engineered, because that's probably the easiest attack vector anymore is the people. If everyone just had password managers, and, for ease of sake, if everyone just had Passly and every MSP had ID agent, we would probably be in much better shape, because I would hope, Passly is generating passwords for us anytime we're, signing up for some new site.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we have browser extensions that it very much like what are some of the freebies, right? What LastPass, RoboForm, right?
Yeah, good old Robo. Right? I haven't heard that name in years.
I know, right?
Oh boy. All right, so when I look at Passly, I gotta say, like, Passly and Password Boss and Keeper all look really similar to me when I just look at the screenshot. And it's not because I think you guys have the same menus and all that. I just see, it's not just here's a list of all the domains. Here's a pretty picture and the label of every website we're going to let you sign into. So be straight with me. Are you guys all just using some kind of like rebranded white label password manager?
Well, so I will be completely honest. So we took over Auth Anvil, and we made it better, honestly. Okay. I can't speak to the other ones, but I mean, you kind of called us out on that one. We did. We are using Auth Anvil, but we did make it better. So, so anybody's familiar with Auth Anvil.
I remember hearing, and again, I'm talking years ago, I remember hearing people just hating on Auth Anvil.
Yeah, I know.
So how do we take the people that would hate on Auth Anvil and say, give Passly a chance?
Well, what was the main reasons that they hated Auth Anvil? Was it because it was hard to roll out to the end users, because it didn't it wasn't multifunction, it didn't, it wasn't, so that would be my question is, without knowing why people hated Auth Anvil, how can I to why they should?
I think it was just because it sucked. I think that was the technical term.
Okay, well, in that case, my response is try Passly because it doesn't suck.
Okay. So TriPass is there like a trial for MSPs to try out? Because again, I see you've got the dark web ID, you've got bullfish ID. Wow, don't say that one without double checking yourself.
Mhm.
And then there's Passly, and then you've got compliance manager.
Mhm.
That seems interesting.
Mhm.
So how does this work? Can we pick and choose? Like, I just want to use Passly, or do I have to get the whole deal?
No, you can pick and choose.
Okay. And let's talk. I believe you are channel only.
I believe
So
you're
if
channeling.
IBM came to you and said, we want 35,000 agents, you would say,
Agents for what? Right? If you wanted,
if
regardless,
IBM came to you, I'm talking IBM or Lenovo or Microsoft.
we
If,
would
you know,
have to find the closest geographical MSP to that location and say, hey, IBM wants this stuff. You're gonna need to take care of it.
you won't sell it to them.
We're in the channel. That's not what we do. ID agent
That's
is
what, other companies are channel only and then they sell their stuff to whoever they want.
well.
Just checking.
Give me an MSP that could handle the IBM 350,000 agents or whatever it is, and we will gladly hand it.
All right, Enigma right there, I think he can do it.
Okay.
If
We'll
of
talk.
anyone, I would trust him for sure. All right, so compliance manager, talk to me about this. Is it just I sign up for it and boom, I'm compliant now?
Oh, wouldn't that be great? So, compliance manager spun out from network detective. Yes. So it was actually a network detective module, but because compliance is so freaking huge right now.
Yes, it is.
We've spun it out. It really needed to be its own business unit. So if you're familiar with network detectives compliance module, this is it on super steroids. And nobody, there's a couple of vendors that come close to what compliance manager does. But we do it all for you. So it runs the scans and we do it for you, and it will offer you cyber liability insurance based on your area. It will give you like 3 options to choose from. It's pretty robust. And it covers all compliance mandates for, what's the list now, right? Of course, HIPAA, there's, we've got some that are specific to other countries. So if you are a rock star, intercontinental, cross-continental MSP, we got you.
Awesome. All right, so I'm not just automatically compliant. Now, you say that it spun off from Network Detective. Now, I don't know if you've ever looked at a report from Network Detective.
Yeah, they're
But
pretty
they are
comprehensive.
hideous. They're hideous. And I'm not saying that they're like bad reports. I just wouldn't run a Network Detective report and then, print out 190 sheets of paper, double-sided, and hand it to the CEO of a company and say,
Oh
"Oh,
God.
here's your report." Like,
No.
yeah, it's awful. So what's compliance manager going to do for me other than give me 197 pages double-sided that I have to sift through and turn into something usable?
So from of course, it's not the massive forests of trees and documents anymore. It's we've made it so it's streamlined, and what it does is it takes the good things from Network Detective, which identifies the gaps and the places where you're not compliant, right? And has boiled it down into many separate modules so that if you wanted to print out certain parts, you could, but you don't have to print out all of it. It's more streamlined, I guess, is the quick way to say it.
Okay. Are there like, any example reports or anything that we could look at?
That's a great question. I'm sure there is for Compliance Manager. So yeah, sure there is.
Okay. And then there's Bullfish ID.
Yes.
And to clarify, a lot of these things I'll say, like, Passly for MSP, Passly for Enterprise. Bullfish ID for MSP, Bullfish ID for Enterprise.
Right. So because what we capped it at for MSP pricing is like 250 seats. Now we have a lot of MSP that do like commits, right? So you are working in conjunction with an enterprise, and it's bigger numbers, it's bigger seats. We had to refigure the pricing and also a lot of the different things. And we have a lot of MSP partners that, again, with the commits, right, they aren't completely managing, and they want to give that access to their contact within the enterprise organization. So we had to make it so it was for both.
Got it. Okay. I'm sorry. So we'll get back to Bullfish ID because, squirrel.
Tree.
Yeah. All right. So Bullfish ID, talk to me about what this is. Is this the one where we're able to do some training and testing to see how susceptible the end users are to being phished and having their stuff hacked?
Yeah. So it's two tools in one, right? So you've got the phishing simulator, and then you've got the security awareness training part of it. So two different tools. And yes, so the phishing simulator is the continuous testing. And we just recently launched a bunch of new enhancements to the Bullfish ID platform. So we've got a new email customization capability within our phishing simulator. And now you can also send phishing emails with attachments. And yeah, and so one of the
attach that invoice.
Right.
Send it on over.
And then you can report back to the customer, not only the employees that opened the email that fell for the fake phishing email, right? Opened it, clicked the link inside it, opened the attachment, but anybody who went to a landing page, which is, of course, is part of the phishing email, and submitted credentials, right? So you can see timestamped who has submitted credential by employee.
And then, can we see the people that were really dumb? Okay, this person they looked at the email, they clicked on the link, they submitted their credentials, and it gave them an error message about how they just got phished. So they closed the tab and we're like, well, that was weird. And then they clicked the link again and tried it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay. Yeah. You don't have those end users, guys, just me? All right. So you mentioned there's the 4 MSPs, the 4 enterprise. So IBM, they call the 4 enterprise.
They what?
IBM when they just call ID agent for enterprise instead of ID agent for MSPs. That way they can buy it from you guys directly.
No.
Because on your website, Bullfish ID for MSPs, Bullfish ID for enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's for enterprise, wouldn't that be a direct sales type thing?
It relates to there's giving privileged access to, so it's a different, I don't want to say different tool, but it's a different package. So they would still get referred.
Okay.
So if IBM came to, went on to www.idagent.com, clicked the form that says, hey, we want Bullfish ID, they would still get routed.
Yeah, and I guess I only ask because, like, I go to this page and here, share screen, application window.
Yep.
I come here and they're talking about your employees, not your. Because if I look here, this is talking about my dumb clients, but here this is talking about my dumb employees.
Yeah.
And even when they're here, they can request a demo.
Mm-hmm. They would
And they
still.
can even get promotional emails from ID Agent.
Yeah, we'll
And they can
send
contact
emails to
sales.
everybody, but it will still go because everything gets routed through, God, what are we using now? Salesforce. It will still get sent to whoever is closest.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you. All right. Let's see here. I think that answered all of the really hard questions so far. So let's talk about. We talked about Passly. We talked about compliance. We talked about Bullfish. We talked about the dark web one for a little bit. Let's talk about the why of the integrations. So I see, obviously you've got Autotask and ConnectWise. You've got some other things, Infusionsoft, RapidFire, but why would I want ID Agent integrated into my PSA?
So when those compromised credential alerts pop up, instead of you getting just an email, you can make it so that would go directly to your ticketing system and it would be routed appropriately. So your help desk could, you can still get the email so that you know what's going on, but you want it to go to your ticketing system so you have those workflows, those efficiencies, right? It's saving you steps, saving your guys time. The quicker they can respond to it, the quicker that they can prevent something bad from happening.
And the only reason that kind of gives me pause, and I'm sure it'll give other guys here in the chat pause, is because I'm gonna throw ConnectWise under the bus here, but integrations can get you in trouble often.
Mm-hmm.
There are times where people have integrated into we'll say like ConnectWise Automate, and then the integration isn't updated for months or years, and now all of a sudden you've got something that's insecure. It's there's now a wide open here. Come get into my lab tech, guys. Like I think for those people.
There's a lot of
really
so there's an entire like industry that has sprung up ConnectWise integrations, and so I do know, and without having any other knowledge of how ConnectWise, the apps and the integrations and the APIs and all that whatnot, I know that ours is not a two-way integration. It is just a one way. So it puts the being a security vendor coming out of the government space to make sure that we keep our updates up to date, right?
Sure. But and again, I'm also playing devil's advocate here. I know it's not two-way, it's only one way, but it is the direction that goes into ConnectWise, not out of ConnectWise. So, that's the one that we want to keep people out of. Mm-hmm. So I guess all I'm saying is I love that you have an integration and there are people that will use it, but for those of you that are like security paranoid, you don't have to use it. If they can send an email, the email can just create, you can have it go to help@mymsp.com and just make a ticket, and then you can have somebody in your company reassign the ticket and whatever you want to do with the ticket.
And that's a great
So
point.
yes.
That is a great point. And, it also speaks to MSPs also have to drink their own Kool-Aid. It can't always be, completely 100% the vendor's responsibility to make sure that you're secure too. MSPs have to drink their own Kool-Aid, right? They have to make sure that they deploy their own security solutions on themselves, as well as 2FA on everything internally.
And I got to tell you, drinking my own Kool-Aid, like, I don't like this flavor. I think it's like collard greens flavor with kale or something. Like, because I just want all of my passwords to be the same thing. I don't want 2FA. Like, why can't we go back to the good old days when hackers weren't such mean people?
Times, they are changing. Cue music.
Oh, yes, they are. Oh, great. Now I'm hearing the voice and everything. What song? Yeah. Who is it though?
Times they are changing.
Is that Willie Nelson?
Oh, is it? That would be awesome if it was. I thought it was like the Beatles.
Bob Dylan. That's
Okay.
I had to Google it. I knew it was someone. It was 1964 was what just popped up. So I knew it was a while ago. Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, they all look the same to me.
Maybe now, not earlier.
It was just raisins. So what else you got? I know, we kind of touched lightly on what all of these tools do. I know that Mr. Solomon has been bragging about all of these. Hey, it's actually him, Matt Solomon, right there. Matt, why aren't you here with us? He was been bragging online about all these updates and upgrades and new features and all this other stuff. So what is actually new? What do you want to brag about with ID Agent?
Well, so we do have another new thing that we didn't talk about, and that's Graphis. Matt gets to have all the fun. This is mine.
That's fine. That's fine. What? I'm sorry. It's called what?
Graphis. Graphus. Graphis. It is AI phishing defense for cloud email.
Neat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that on your website.
It has its own website because it's so spectacular. Graphis.ai.
Anti-phishing software. So let's see what we can find out here. And I know I'm at the right one because it says Graphis.
Yes, that's it. Yay! Good job.
A Kaseya company.
Mm-hmm.
So
that would be the other clue.
So here it is. Simple, powerful, automated phishing defense. That's some interesting facts.
So the coolest thing about, and so I will say, so we have been using Graphis internally. We've used it for almost a year prior to rolling it out as for customers, right? For our MSP partners. So we started using it first before we bought it. And it's 3 layers of phishing defense. And so, one layer is, of course, the tool that identifies phishing and spam, right? Then the second layer is it puts it in the, gives some power to the employee, right? So it'll add anything that the tool thinks is suspect. It will allow a ribbon to be placed at the top. It will put a ribbon at the top of an email. Now, you as the MSP, you can customize that ribbon. So it has your little logo on it. It says, hey, this email, you need to pay attention to it. Might be suspect because this person's never emailed us before, or these types of emails are generally associated with phishing or spam or whatever it is, right? Based on the conditions that you set on the back end, but you can customize that. And what makes it so unique is that the employee, they read it and they're like, okay, yeah, this is probably not, this is a bad email. So they click a link in that ribbon that quarantines it as a phishing email. Now, when that employee does that, Graphis will automatically go out and pull that email from any other employee that it got sent to as soon as it gets identified by one employee. So that's super.
That is great.
Yeah. And then
great.
If it's an okay email and the employee's like, yeah, no, I know this person, it's all good, they can click, not phishing, right? So, but it quarantines it first until the employee identifies which one it is. And then once it gets released because it's good, or it stays quarantined and it pulls the rest of them. So super, super cool. Not to mention it learns the communication styles and patterns of employees. So it minimizes the amount of false positives. There's that word again.
Interesting. Okay. So again, I see Graphis for business, enterprise, MSPs, and there's different versions with different features. In fact, MSPs are not able to integrate with a SIEM. SIEM. Whatever.
Is it SIEM? I've always been confused about that. I just go SIEM.
I don't know. It's all Greek to me. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you won't allow us to integrate with one of these types of tools. I'm just going to say that. One of these types of the tools instead of SIEM. 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 All right. So, because more and more MSPs are signing up for services like, I can't think of the one. I think it starts with a V or a Y.
There's a couple of them.
Or a Niner.
Niner starts with an N.
Vigiland. Oh. Vigiland. That's the one I was thinking of.
What is it?
Vigiland. Yeah. So Vigiland. VIJILAN.
Oh, that one. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I can pronounce that, but I can't pronounce and then this Shiva here, he says he uses Splunk. And
really, that's phishing defense?
Splunk is a SIEM.
Oh, okay.
It says so right here.
Oh, yes.
It's okay.
Yeah, I see.
So anyway, I guess all I'm saying, honestly, is I just am shocked that this is an X and not a check. Not because I would expect every MSP to want to integrate with one, but I think more and more are really going to want to, and honestly, soon enough, need to.
So coming from a non-technical person, right, and knowing that Graphis is AI phishing defense for cloud email, why is that? Why is it bad that it doesn't integrate? Or why not? What am I trying to say? So we don't provide an integration with MSPs. I mean, maybe, I don't know, what would be the reason for that?
So a SIEM is basically thank you, by the way, Derek, because I'm going to use that from now on. A SIEM is, and by the way, Derek says aloha.
Hi, Derek.
So a SIEM is basically log aggregation. So that way you or a SOC or one of your peasants, employees, can go through the logs and, as Shiva says, threat correlation. You're going to look through the logs and you're going to say, okay, normally this and this by themselves are okay, but when these two things happen together, it actually means something else is going on, and now we have a problem. And obviously that's a much simplified version, but it's just something that more and more MSPs are starting to finally take seriously these days because of all the security threats.
Which is good.
And it's also really helpful because it's doing like aggregation, pooling of all the logs from firewalls and switches and all of this stuff, right? All of your tools and services and SaaS products, and it all just stores it in one location. So now you've got centrally managed logs, which is really helpful for compliance purposes, especially when your client has compliance that requires you to keep logs for a year or longer. So I would just say that Graphis for MSPs, some MSPs will not consider you until you will integrate with a SIEM.
Interesting.
In one way or another.
Well, that's good feedback. So definitely something I can take back and maybe get a much better explanation other than I don't know. So yeah, my apologies for that.
No, it's okay. And again, you're not the technical person, so I'm not trying to beat you up, but I am trying to make sure that the MSPs are heard, because
Absolutely.
They're not, they're here, but they're not here. So so Shiva says he's using Iron Scales, and he wants to know how Graphis compares to Iron Scales and Avana.
So I don't know about Avana, and really the closest correlation to other vendors from what we do is it's Barracuda. They have a very similar product. And again, I don't know how Barracuda compares to Iron Scales. So if you do, then that might help a little bit. So we actually, our product does the same thing that Barracuda's does, only ours is a lower price point.
Okay.
So,
and I've heard of just today, actually, I heard of another one called BitDam, the 3-letter word without the N, BitDam, and it does some type of intelligence when it comes to emails and phishing and all that stuff. So I recommend looking into that one, Amelia, just so that way you guys can see what else is kind of up and coming in email security. Shiva says Barracuda Sentinel, because if that's what you're comparing your product to, and hey, I'm just the messenger. Barracuda Sentinel is trash relative to Iron Scales.
Oh, and how? So I'd be curious to find out how is it trash compared. I mean,
I think it's that Barracuda allowed bad things to happen. Iron Scales did not.
Oh, okay. Well, so in that,
I think he would rather have good emails get tagged bad than bad emails get tagged good. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I totally support that.
Yeah. So and just kind of like I said, he ran them side by side. Barracuda lost every time, and I'm assuming it's simply Barracuda didn't catch things, but Iron Scales did. And that's really similar to what I was hearing about BitDam. Just because what I was hearing about them is basically they put it after whatever the client spam filter or whatever email security tool, they put it after that tool, and they were able to show the client, hey, look at all this stuff that BitDam caught that your product didn't think was a problem. Yeah. And
so
Shiva also says Iron Scales was faster.
To be honest, I will can get back on the difference, sure. But I'm not the Graphis expert, but it is something that's new, that's part of the security suite is at ID Agent. So, and I may be completely wrong, and our Graphis specialist would be like, it's this, and this, However, I am not that individual. So, but I will find out about the seam difference. So
Thank you.
Stay tuned.
Awesome. Thank you. And so let's talk about money before we do that, before we talk about money, I just want to share something that I found. Just looking through your code here. Did you guys have Pronto Marketing build your Graphis website?
No clue.
Okay. I just see some things in here that would lead me to believe they did, like Pronto sidebar navigation and the Phoenix theme, which they are known for
Why'd
using.
you bring
So
that up?
that's all.
Why is that of interest?
Because I'm a web design nerd, and I just love looking at source code and seeing what I can see. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Pronto makes great websites. I have nothing against them. It just, it's neat seeing things out in the wild and being able to piece them all together. That's all.
You're funny.
All right. So let's talk about money for a second here. Do you know what Graphis costs for an MSP?
It's based on email boxes. So there are different bundles. And so again, it would depend on the number of email boxes that you wanted to protect.
Okay. Range?
So starting at, I believe 400 is the minimum. But again, I'm not sure how many email boxes that gets you. Probably more than 4. I'm kidding.
So not 400 mailboxes, 400 a month.
Yes, I'm totally kidding.
Okay.
Yeah, on average, it's about.
No, I'm with you. I like jokes.
Ours is about $1.36 somewhere in there per email box.
So let me ask you this: you put a minimum on Graphis, and I suspect there might be a minimum on ID Agents products as well, right?
There is, yes.
Why?
Well, honestly, for all involved, us and our partner, there needs to, in order for there to be ROI on both ends, there needs to be a minimum, right? So, and when I say a minimum, our smallest package starts at 10 domain spots for monitoring, for phishing, for security awareness training, right? So when you get access to our platform, it's not just one tool. You get 3 tools, plus our partner support, our Powered Services Pro program gives you extensive sales and marketing support and training and content and collateral and dynamic, refreshed, ever-changing, updating, depending on the trends in the market, content that you can repurpose for your customers, for your thought leadership, for your marketing. It's extensive, the amount of support that we give you. So, we can't be the only ones with a little bit of skin in the game.
I understand that, but again, I love playing devil's advocate. So
look, we are here to make sure that you guys are successful, right? And just any MSP organization, you guys aren't, you're not in it, you're not nonprofit organizations, right? It'd be just like me if I was an end user and I came to you and I'm like, so, how much is it? How much is your MSP? Why are you so expensive, right? Why do you charge me whatever it is per seat, right? Well, because it's more than just, connecting your printers, right? You want to make sure you are keeping your customers protected and secure and all that goes in with it, right? Because there's a lot. It's the after-hour calls, it's the technical support, it's the research, it's being on tech support with Microsoft until they escalate you to the friggin' level 2, the person that actually knows something. The customer's not doing that. You're doing that. So it's again, I'm using extreme examples, but we want everybody to be successful. You, us. So there's got to be some minimums. Will you
Sure.
tell me
Okay.
that?
So hear me out. Um, there are barriers to entry with a lot of these products.
Yeah.
If companies like ID Agent and Datto and ConnectWise would just let the little guy, I'm going to call them, start off and say, you know what, just I'll take one. Like, I get it. You go to McDonald's, you can't just order one French fry. You got to get the thing of French fries. But but we're also talking about a whole thing of French fries that costs $2, and you've got a thing that's a minimum of $400.
Well, we're talking
So
about
if we
ID now. That's different.
so okay, but so what's your minimum for ID Agent?
So our minimums for ID Agent, we've got it's a little over $200 for the 10 domains. They're approximately about little over $15, $20 per domain. So our main package that we usually start off with is 30 domains, right? Or I'm sorry, 20 domains, 20 domain spots. That's $350. And again, it's not just dark web monitoring. You're getting 3 tools.
No, I know, and I get it, but when you look at, I'm going to keep referring to the little guy, okay? Because the big guys aren't the problem. They can afford the minimums. Established MSPs can afford the minimums because they've already got the client base, they've already got the maturity, they've already got the money in the bank. But when you look at the smaller MSPs, you're really saying, like, you're almost saying to them, I don't want your business. Because the smaller MSP, like, they might only have 1 or 2 clients that they're able to use ID Agent on, so let's call it 2 or 3 domains. And they can't justify spending, a couple $100 plus on this product. So instead, they just won't have it. And like, it's that type of stuff that's causing such a gap in the quality of MSPs that are out there. You look at some of the smaller ones, they don't have all the fancy tools. And let's be honest, they do a half-assed job. They don't know what they're talking about most of the time. And they make the other MSPs who have all the fancy tools look bad.
I see what you're saying, and may I just disagree in one way. So ID Agent, I can't tell you how many of my MSP partners that I've signed up had no customers, and I'll tell you why it's still valuable for the MSP that has no customers. Our tool helps you get new customers. Our live data search, that on-the-spot dark web scan, plus our partner enablement materials and support helps you get customers. So you don't have to have customers. And all you would need at the base price is 3 customers to cover the cost of the dark web monitoring. And then you also have 2 additional tools that you can upsell them. Plus, all of the support. Our customer support team, our channel success managers, by which every MSP partner gets assigned one. We do webinars with you and for you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be doing a webinar for one of my MSP partners next week. I mean, we are doing 50 plus webinars, virtual events, golf event. I mean, for those of you that still want to do golf events because it's outside, right? Whatever. I'm not telling you should. I'm not telling you shouldn't. But the events that our partners do, we dedicate so much time and energy to help you sell it. I could list off 4 or 5 MSP that last September. Even in the middle of COVID in May, that had no customers that are now rocking it.
It's awesome.
It is
That's
awesome.
perfect.
So,
that's what I wanted to hear.
I do hear you, right? That it's and our sweet spot is that small MSP that is trying to get to that $1 million revenue range, but just can't get over that last hump to get them where they need to. That is our customer base. It's not the established MSP. Yes, we have some now because of the help and the support that we've given them.
Sure.
But the small MSP, those are our babies.
So that would you say that your typical client is probably coming on board with, I'm going to call it like your starter package. They just start with the 10 domains and add more from there as they continue to grow?
Yes. And we have, just kind of to illustrate the fact, we have over 500 current MSP partners that are 1 to 3 man shops that have 1 to 2 customers. They're just starting out.
So you're saying you have over 500 MSP customers total, or you have over 500 that are just 1 to 3 man shops just starting out?
Well, both. Wait a second.
So all
What?
of your customers.
No.
So you said you have over 500 customers
that are 1 to 3 man shops.
Okay, so you have more than 500 customers total.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or 500. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what? Huh? Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, and Matt just said 4,000 MSPs worldwide. That's what I was getting at. That's what. Okay. Thank you, Matt. Do you guys have contracts, like, when we decide to work with you, are we signing our lives away for 12 to 36 months?
Yeah, we do have contracts.
Okay. And are you willing to guarantee that you're going to be helping us sell this product? I mean, obviously you can't guarantee we're going to make sales, because if we suck at sales, we suck at sales. But I mean, are you guys willing to say, yes, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to do webinars with you. We'll do events with you, whatever it takes. You let us know what type of events you want to do, and we're going to help you do it.
Yes. And sometimes we give you ideas on events that you might want to try, or, but if you have ideas for events, absolutely. No, yes. We are only successful if you are. And that's why we have, look, again, it's about, we put so much into the support that we give our MSP partners. We have to have a contract in place, because if we did month to month, you could literally go into our partner support portal and also our dark web monitoring tool and run a bunch of domains and run a bunch of reports and also download everything that's in. I mean, we're talking like thousands of content pieces that are constantly, but I mean,
I gotta say, that is awesome that you guys have so much content, but when I log into a partner portal and I see all that content, I now have like decision overload, because I'm like, all right, like half of it probably doesn't apply to me or my clients, and the other half, where do I begin? So I just download all of it, and now I'm like, it's like Pokemon, gotta catch them all. Like, I've got to download every piece of content in the partner portal, and next thing you know, I've got a hard drive filled with content that I'll never use because reasons, and then I move on to the next tool because
that's
I downloaded all this content and got overwhelmed.
And so what we've done to help with that decision overload is we have created monthly campaign themes, right? And the theme is to sell security, not just dark web monitoring, right? But dark web monitoring, phishing, simulated phishing, security awareness training, backup, whatever security, because look, if you can get your foot in the door with ID Agent, the goal is to not just sell dark web monitoring, but the rest of your MSP services. So that's what we help you do. So every month we give you a theme, we give you a campaign, and it's meant to sell security, not specific security.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right. Anything else you want to let people know? Any buy one get one free specials? Anything?
Well, with the portal, you can connect it to your social media, so you don't have to download it to your drive and fill up your your computer with content that you'll never use. You connect it right to your social media site, so you can publish it on social as yours. With your branding, your logo, your color scheme, because we give you the source files. And anybody who's had to try and manipulate another vendor's marketing slicks to try and slap your logo on it, well, let me get a hallelujah on the source files for that. Yeah. So
Adobe Creative Suite, or just like Microsoft Word?
No, this source files. So you can change the color, and I believe it's I don't know.
So I wasn't sure if maybe it was like Adobe Illustrator or InDesign, one of those. Like, I know Adobe is kind of
it's not generic
industry standard for like high quality design, which, let's be honest, looking at your gorgeous website, you guys definitely go for high quality design. But I also know that not all MSPs have, the $50-$60 a month to spend on Adobe. So yeah. I also think that sometimes vendors will maybe just do something in, Word, Photoshop, Publisher, whatever, just so that way they can make it usable for as many people as possible, even though that usually sacrifices the quality.
You can modify it in the portal.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
So
that's even cooler.
I don't know what the back end is. I just know you can modify it.
It doesn't matter anymore. Why didn't you say so to begin with?
I was letting you get all worked up before I delivered that last,
Oh man, you made this even cooler. So let me get this straight. For a couple $100 a month, we're going to get 10 domains of dark web ID. We're going to be able to.
But we have a starter package. Yes.
Okay. And that starter package, that's just a dark web ID starter pack, or does that also include some Bullfish and Passly compliance, any of that?
So it includes dark web monitoring, the lead tool, so the live data search, the on-the-spot dark web monitoring, right? So the prospecting tool. It also includes the phishing simulator and security awareness training, plus all of the sales and marketing support and partner enablement materials, people, guidance, strategy, brainstorming.
I'm sorry, did I hear you say the phishing training? So you hear that, guys? Never mind, I'm not going there. Gonna bite my tongue before I get in trouble. All right, and if you move closest to IBM, you're going to get a big referral someday, according to Ed.
Hey, right?
So,
does anybody know if IBM is stateside?
I don't know.
Is headquarters stateside? I don't know.
IBM headquarters, Armonk, New York.
Ooh, lots of MSPs in New York.
Yeah, but Armonk?
Good point.
I don't even know what an Armonk is.
It's in the armadillo family, I think. Aardvark?
I don't know. I see Armonk and I think, it's got like a monastery for all, because you're asking everyone, are you a monk? An Armonk?
But bump. Chink.
Yeah, you can tell I'm a dad, can't you? All right, this is derailing fast. I'm gonna call it.
Circling the drain. Yep, I think we've exhausted all topics, and now we're just getting silly.
We have. Amelia, I would love if you and or Matt could come back sometime and maybe just show off the tools and kind of let us see what it's like to use them as an MSP, how we could use them in prospecting. So how we can walk into a company and be like, hey, so did you know I know all your passwords, and not get thrown out of there or arrested or something like that.
Yeah, that's not quite the word track you want to use.
Okay, well, that's why we have you to help us understand how to do this better, okay?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And
So
you ask Matt
let's
and
get you guys on here to do that. All right. Thank you so much for hopping on here with me today. I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot about ID Agent. And for those of you that maybe missed it in the beginning, Amelia said that they are willing to sign a BAA between ID Agent and your MSP. And they also have a BAA template that you can use between you, the MSP, and your clients. Obviously, have a competent lawyer review the BAA before you start using it. Otherwise, it may not do you any good. So thank you so much for hopping on here. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yep.
I hope you all
fun.
have a wonderful day.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, guys.